recording. Thank you. Thank you so much, dear devotees, for inviting me to this August gathering here in Modesto. I really look forward to it every month. And for the past few months, we have been talking about some mantras on how we can get happiness in life. So we'll continue further with those mantras after these prayers to the spiritual masters and to the parampara. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनाशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः. श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वापदान्तिकं. वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरौ श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवंश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितंश्च. हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिका कान्त राधाकान्त नमस्तुते. तप्त काञ्चन गौरांगी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये. वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा. हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 रामा राम राम हरे हरे. गोपेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल. Okay, so I'm going to begin with the session with our PowerPoint presentation, and we will do a quick round of recap of what we have been talking in the past two sessions that we had over the past 2 months. We had covered 4 mantras for gaining happiness, and I'm just trying to see how I can mute everybody here. Okay, and I'm muting everybody. So at the appropriate times, I'm giving you the privileges to be able to unmute yourself. And okay, so I'm not allowed to have co-host over here. Okay, that's fine. We can do it that. All right. So I'm going to start sharing my screen with you. And if you can tell me how it shows up on your screen. So let me know when Prabhupada's picture shows up on the screen for you, if it does. One of you had, okay, God, I see the thumbs up from Usha ji. So we're going to get going. So I started with the prayers with this short prayer to the spiritual master to open our eyes so that we can see from, get out of the darkness of illusion and see the real truth that it is there. So our agenda, as usual, will be Kirtan, beautiful Kirtans by two Matajis, and then followed by Krishna Katha for some time. And then we'll have the chance to have reflections, which is anything that you liked, anything new, anything that struck you in the course, or any questions that you have. We'll cover that towards the end there. So we're talking about the happiness mantra, and we started with a story which was about a man that was being chased by a tigress. and he was running through a jungle very, very fast, not watching his step as to where he's going. And he was about to step over a well which was filled with snakes. And Viduji, you see, I've done some um, extra work over there to make sure you have a pleasant experience this evening. So he was about to step over a well which was filled with snakes. And then to his rescue, he saw that there was a creeper on the top above the well, and he started to hang over the creeper. And he thought that he was safe, but then to his dismay, he sees that there were two rats, one black and one white, who were nibbling away at the rope here. And he was just, just didn't know, he was at his wits' end. So he cries out to the Lord and he says, "Oh Lord, please come and please help me." And as he's crying out, he looks up to pray to the Lord, and he sees that on the top there is a beehive, which is full of bees. It was an active beehive. And then as he's crying out for help, for the Lord, then to his rescue comes a big elephant. And he was mad, and he was just thinking, now what, this mad elephant? But then this mad elephant actually had a positive influence. He comes and bashes his heads against the tree, and the tree sways to one side. And what that means is then the man together with the tree falls on one side outside the well. So that was the big saving for him. But then in this process, what happened was that the bees who were there in the beehive did not like all this commotion, so they were disturbed. So they came in swarms, and then they bit the man very badly. And as the bees were biting him and the honey was hanging from the tilted branches of the tree, some drops of the honey fell from the beehive and onto the tongue of the man. And so he takes out his tongue, protrudes his tongue even further. And he says that this is the best honey that I have ever tasted. And so he gets a temporary happiness. And we talked about that in the previous lessons, that this is called the happiness of the fool. And as he was there enjoying the little drops of honey mixed together with the bites of the honey bees, which was still biting on his face and his body, the Lord came. So Vishnu comes there, beautiful Vishnu sitting on the Garuda. And of course his devotee had called out, you call out the name of the Lord, you become a devotee of the Lord. So he arrived. And then he was looking very, very beautiful. He was sitting on the beautiful Garuda. And then he said, he reached out his hand and he said, "Come, hold my hand and I will take you," like that. And then this man says to the Lord, "Just a minute." And this is the story of all of us, that whenever we have any problems in life, right? We are suffering them, but when we have a little bit of happiness, we forget all the unhappiness and all the distresses that we have in life. This man, as he was licking the drops of honey that fell on his tongue, he forgot about the fact that there was a tigress somewhere around him, that there were snakes in the well, they could come out. There were bees up in the beehive and out down. There was a mad elephant around him, right? There were mice there. They were nibbling at the rope and he was hanging from it. So, but he says just a minute. And we all know that there's just a minute actually then transforms itself into an hour, a day, a month, a year, and decades pass by and we completely forget about the Lord. So you all can congratulate yourself that you have not forgotten the Lord, even in these days of COVID, when we had so much of opportunities and so much of temptation to indulge in other things while we are sitting at home, right? There's a television out there 24 by 7 offering us its services, right? There's food that is there in the refrigerator. There's food that we can cook, right? We can get on gossiping sessions over the phone. We can do all of that, right? And more. But we decided that no, and especially the Modesto community, I'm really, really very, impressed by you that you have these sessions every day, and everybody comes to these sessions. So that's fantastic, just fantastic, right? So you can congratulate yourself on that. And as I said, that we always feel and we know that we all have our beehive situations in our life when we feel that we are completely cornered, right? We just don't know what to do, right? And that is why, I'd like to quote Albert Einstein, the brainy man on this planet. He said that no problem can be solved from the same level of consciousness that created that problem. And this is very, very important, right? A problem created by a second grader is usually cannot be solved by a second grader. For example, how kids sometimes, 1 year old, 2 year old kids, they will go into the shoe rack, they will take out all the shoes one by one, and then they will tie them all together. So after 15 minutes, you see that all your pairs of shoes, the papa shoes, are all, entangled and the laces are all knotted together. They did it, but they cannot undo it because their consciousness is not at that level by which they can solve the problem that they created. It doesn't take much of a consciousness to create the problem. You just had to play with the shoes to get them all entangled. But it requires a person with a higher consciousness to be able to solve. And so this was a very, very simple example, but it applies to everything that we have in life. And then some of the life's problems are actually beyond us. Some of the problems can be solved. For example, failing in the exam is a problem in school, which can be solved if you study hard, right? But there are certain problems that just come unannounced and we have no idea how to handle them. For example, I always give the example of Steve Jobs because it had a big impact on me. He was the Apple guy. He created the Apple company. Such a big, powerful guy. And then he's declared that, he has got cancer. So problems like this come which are beyond our control. And so we have to go and solve those problems at a higher consciousness. And when I say you solve the problems at a higher consciousness, that doesn't necessarily mean that if you are diagnosed with cancer, we can raise our consciousness to a level where we'll find the cure for cancer. It's not necessarily that in all the cases. When we raise our consciousness to a higher level, it might also give you a bigger picture of the problem. And whenever you have a bigger picture and a 30,000 feet view of anything, it's a totally different kind of a view that you have. And what I mean by that is that if you are in a city, you have gone to a city, and in that city you find that there are some stray dogs and there is some litter in one corner of the street and you don't like it, and there are some dirty pigs also moving around, so you don't like it. You're like, this is dirty, it's smelly, and it's bad. This whole city is dirty. We get that thing in our mind because what we're doing is that our consciousness is just focused on that one street which is in the city. Other parts of the city may be very beautiful, but I don't know. I'm ignorant of that fact. My focus is very narrow and very small. I'm looking at that. But if I were to sit in an aeroplane and look at the same city, I may say, oh, wow, I didn't know there's a lotus temple over there. Oh, there are beautiful gardens. There's so much greenery in this city. And all that I was focusing on was on a very small piece and a bad thing. So as you increase your consciousness to a higher level, right, then your whole outlook also changes. And one of the things that Bhagavad Gita tells us, and which comes to our rescue a lot, because one of our big fears in life is the fear of death, right? So diagnosed with cancer, it's like, whoa, I'm going to die now. Everything is going to finish for me. What is there after life, right? And then Bhagavad Gita comes and says that, but you are the soul, you are mistaken, you have lost your identity. It is so important for us to have the identity, isn't it? Those of you who have gone to work in your days, in your working days, then you would remember that in order to enter your office, there was an identity card. And if someday you forgot to take your identity card, then you had trouble, right? You had to just call your manager. The manager had to come down and then escort you up. And the whole day you were in trouble because you can't move here and there freely, right? Because you lost your identity card. And that is the problem with all of us, that we have lost our real identity card. We are identifying ourselves with this body. But instead, if we identify ourselves as the soul, then the biggest fear, which is death, that goes away because the soul never dies. I'm going to live forever. All this thing is going to continue. It's just that as I change clothes every day, I change bodies when a new one is required. And the sad part is that although the body ages and gives us grief, the knees are hurting, I get a new knee replacement, my backbone is hurting, my eyes can't see properly, there's cough in my throat, all that is there, but the attachment to the body is a lot. It's very, very strong. And that's why throughout the life, we have to constantly bring our consciousness to a level where we can get over these attachments and suffer less. And opposite of suffering is happiness. Some sort of a happiness we'll be able to gain from this material world. So there are a lot of facts that are actually listed out and told to us from the Shastras. And we find in the Shastras extremes of people talking about the facts of life. We have Kapil Dev in Srimad Bhagavatam, who is an incarnation of the Lord. And he gives us a very good understanding of the Sankhya philosophy, what this world is, what is it made up of, why the world is created, how the worlds are created, what are these senses, and so on and so forth. He gives a very nice explanation coming from Kapil Dev, right, who is nothing but Supreme Personality of Godhead incarnated as Kapil Dev. And then on the other hand, we also get some siksha and some very good information. Vritasura, who is actually a demon. So Vritasura was actually Chitraketu in his previous life, but he was cursed by Mother Parvati for bad behavior, which she thought was bad behavior, and he was cursed. But he took cursed to be a demon, but he took her curse very nicely, and he became a demon. But even in the body of a demon, he was still a devotee at heart. And so he gives us some very good knowledge, which comes up in the sixth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And then we also have the young, very, very young Prahlad Maharaj, who is a 5-year-old boy at that time. He's just a prince. And he gives very good understanding to while he's teaching to his fellow students in the school, instead of learning what his father wanted him to learn, which is political science and military science and economics and things like that, which a prince is supposed to learn, he instead was teaching his fellow students that, that your ultimate goal in life is to reach to Vishnu. And he gives some very strong stuff coming from the mouth of a 5-year-old, because he says two things. One, he says that happiness in this material world is Mrig Trishni Rupa. Mrig Trishni Rupa means that it is like Amrik Trishna. It's an optical illusion. We might think that this person is a happy person. My neighbors are very happy. They're always laughing. And actually, there's a crude joke on that. One person always was very miserable in his married life, but there was always, sounds of laughter coming from the neighborhood, from his next door neighbor. And he was just wondering, how come the husband laughs and the wife laughs, and both of them are always laughing like that? So one day he could not contain himself, so he goes there and knocks at the door, and he says, "Excuse me, but I want to know the secret of your happiness. Why do you laugh? And why are you so happy?" So then the man sat him down and said, "Look here, buddy. It's not that I have a happy life. I always am quarreling with my wife. And she's in the kitchen, and from there's a shouting match that goes on. We are shouting at each other, and then she gets angry, and then she throws the rolling pin at me. If it hits me, then she laughs, and if it doesn't hit me, then I laugh. So that's what is going on in the house. And you think that they have got happiness in their life, right? So Mrik Trishni Rupa is what Prahlad Maharaj is saying, that there is no happiness. Shruti Sukham. He says Shruti Sukham. Only people have heard it like that. And here is it. We are pursuing happiness. Where is happiness? Hawaii. Happiness is in Hawaii. So you go to the airport and you're sitting at the airport and you're waiting to board the plane. And you see this big board and it says happiness is in Italy. Right? Where is happiness? Is it in Hawaii or is it in Italy? Happiness is nowhere. Happiness can be found only within ourselves. So towards that end, we had talked about some of the mantras, right? And first mantra that we said was that Brahma Bhuvana Loka, right? From Brahma Loka down to the planets, everywhere there is misery. So learn to tolerate. The good thing about miseries is that they will come and they will go. Some will stay for a longer time and some will stay for a shorter time, but they all go away in as much as happiness also goes away. So we have to remember this truth. And Krishna says, Matsparshas tu konteya sito shun sukha dukha dha agam apanyo anityastam titikshasva bharata. Titiksha means tolerate. And he says, this happiness and distress that come into our lives are just because you are touching the various objects with your senses. You look at a beautiful thing, you touch a form with your eyes or eyesight. When you feel happy, if you see a beautiful thing, you feel disgusted if you see a dirty thing. So that happiness, distress is coming because your senses are touching your sense objects, and they will come and go, just like seasons come and go. Learn how to tolerate them. Just as we learn how to tolerate the cold in the winters and the heat in the summers, we tolerate that, right? So similarly, learn to tolerate. So that was the first mantra that we talked about. And the second mantra that we said was Shraddha. Put your heart in the right place. And we talked about that example of the boat, right? You sell the boat and the buy boat, two opposite things, you're still happy because the heart is in that place. And how to, be happy. Where is it that I should place my heart? Anybody wants to answer? If I want to be happy, where should I place my heart? Any guesses? You can unmute yourself. Did I allow you to unmute yourself?
Please repeat.
Devotional services.
Okay. So my question was that uh, mantra number 2 for happiness was you should place your heart in the right place. So my question was, where should you place the heart?
Devotional services.
Devotional services.
Devotional services, Usha Mataji and Shama Mataji, and both are correct, right? So we should know how to place our heart. So to put that into the devotional service, right? So chant, chant, chant away. And why do we say that? And that is because devotional service has got this characteristic. Devotional services removes all our tendency to do sin, and distresses in our life comes from distresses in our life come from sinning, the sins that we have performed over so many periods of life. It comes from there. So we have to learn to put our heart in devotional service and remember not to forget Krishna ever in our life, no matter what we are doing. Then we also talked about that happiness will come if you are satisfied. And we also came up with a formula of satisfaction. And we said that, the more you expect, there's less chances for you to be satisfied. Okay. And why will you expect more? Because somebody has told you given you the wrong idea of this world, that this is a place to enjoy. If you set your expectation that no, this is a place actually of misery. So then when there is no misery, you are naturally happy. Oh, today today the rolling pin didn't hit me, so I'm happy, like that. So Maya throws many rolling spins at us, not just those neighbors who are throwing it at each other. So we have to learn to be satisfied with what we have. So that was one mantra. And then the next mantra that we said was we have to be grateful for whatever we have. And a large part of our dissatisfaction, and this is gratefulness and satisfaction are actually connected to each other, because a large part of our dissatisfaction comes from the fact that we have forgotten to be grateful to Krishna for everything that we get. I mean, like, tonight when you lie down on bed, put your hand on your heart and feel it beating. What are we doing to make the heart beat? Nothing. It beats by itself. But if the heart stops beating, we die. So look at how much gratefulness we should have. That this is something which is so essential for my living here, so that I can enjoy this material world, which is so important for me. I don't even have to do that, right? What do I have to do to breathe? Nothing. Automatically, I'm breathed by somebody, right? If we think that I'm breathing, if I think that I breathe, try to stop. Let's do an exercise. Let's all of us stop breathing. And please don't breathe till the end of this class. Okay? I'll continue and go to the next slide. It's not going to happen. After some time, no matter how hard you try, immediately your nose will, and then you'll start breathing again, because it's not in your control. So this is also an eye-opening exercise to know that although we think we are the controllers, we cannot even control our own body. What to think of controlling others? members of your team, members of the nation, the voters, the children, the spouse. We can't control anybody, right? Because Krishna is the supreme controller. Ishvara Parma Krishna, Sachidananda Vigraha. Ishwar, he's the supreme controller, right? So once we are grateful to Krishna for the fact that I'm breathing because of him, my heart is beating because of him, I'm able to digest the food. How much work is taken to cook the food, right? You have to get the groceries, you have to know the recipe, you have to chop it, you have to cook it nicely, serve it, and eat it. After that, digestion, nothing. You don't do anything. Get digested everywhere. Whatever essential is required by the body, it gets extracted. So much to be grateful for to the Lord. So the more we are grateful, our mental, life, our physical life, our emotional life, our careers, everything improves just by bringing in this gratefulness. Very, 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 very important, right? And then what can we be grateful for? In addition to all these things, we should always remember to be grateful to our acharyas. And that's why in the beginning we have long prayers, right, before these sessions, because we are remembering our acharyas who have brought this wealth of knowledge to us, right? The Bhagavad Gita. Who understands Sanskrit? We can't even pronounce it properly, right? Who understands, right? Even if we can't pronounce it, I don't know how to translate that. There are so many shastras which are there. Actually, the sages of Naimisharanya, and towards the beginning of Kali Yuga, they sat and they asked 6 questions. And one of the questions was that give us the essence of all the scriptures. Why did they need the essence of all the scriptures? Because the scriptures are huge. The Vedas run into lakhs of verses. Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sam Veda, Athar Veda. Mahabharata, 1 lakh verses. So they wanted, because they know the life in our whole life, we cannot read it. So he gave them the essence in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is 18,000 verses. And now, so many years after that, we are saying, oh, 18,000 verses? I don't have the time. I can only read 1 verse of Srimad Bhagavatam a day. Now, if you read 1 word of Srimad Bhagavatam a day, it's going to take you 53 years to complete the Srimad Bhagavatam. So you can do the math, how much we have to learn. So we have to be grateful to our acharyas who have translated the Shastras, who have summarized the Shastras for us, so that within the short span of life, we all can go back to Godhead like that, right? So those were the mantras that we talked about, right? To tolerate. I'll do a quick recap. We talked about tolerate and then putting your heart in the right place, be satisfied with what you have, be grateful, right? And then today we're going to go for mantra number 5, and which is be a master giver. Be a master giver. Usually we are master askers. We know how to ask. Like look at a small child, right? Even from childhood, we know how to beg of our parents, and we know how to beg of our elder god siblings, and we know how to beg of others. We know how to beg of our customers. We know we're begging all the time. I want this, I want this, I want this. It's all for ourselves. But instead of doing that, instead of saying that, what can I take from this guy? Whenever I meet somebody and I say, what can I take? Oh, your sari is looking very nice. Can I borrow it? Oh, your earrings are beautiful. Can I borrow it? Like that. We keep on doing that, right? Instead of doing that, if our attitude changes to say, what can I do for you? What can I do for you? And there was a very interesting article. There was a survey conducted during the giving season that we have, right? November, December time. And where a lot of people buy presents and a lot of people, exchange gifts amongst each other. And so they did a survey, and how happy when do you feel happier? When you receive a gift or when you give a gift? And majority of them said, yeah, you guessed it right, Vidhu Mataji, that when you give a gift, people were more happy. They were happy. And why? Why am I happy when I'm giving? Because I'm wired to do that way. Krishna has built me that way. So when I do my natural thing, then I will be happy. For example, this is the way I naturally am situated. My head is up and my feet are down. Now imagine if somebody was to hang me upside down, head down and the feet above. I will immediately start feeling awkward. All the blood will rush to my head. I'll be giddy and maybe faint or do something like that. So the best situation is to be in your natural situation. You are a giver, you give. So let's have some questions here. What are the things that you think that you can give? What are some of the things that you think you can give? Unmute yourself and ask that question. What are some?
Kindness.
You can give kindness.
Kindness.
You can give you smile.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Happiness.
You
How
can
do you
Smile,
give
you can give you
To do
happiness.
something.
so,
Give it.
so you can give happiness.
Thoughts.
Concrete.
Okay, you can give your thoughts. Okay, ideas, you mean? Okay, you can give your ideas
Yeah.
to others. Okay, very good. What are some of the other things that you can easily give?
We can show
Service.
sympathy.
You can give sympathy. Yeah.
Love.
Gratefulness.
Grateful.
Love,
Yeah.
caring.
Love and affection.
sympathy.
Love and
Love.
Love and affection.
okay. Hey, nobody is
And
giving
money.
money. Huh?
Money, of course.
Yeah, I was waiting for money.
That's so
Sympathy.
obvious.
And what is the sympathy, empathy?
Yes, all the nice words, right? You could give, right?
Yeah.
Help at the time when the other person really needs it.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes, you can
Food.
give your time,
Mm.
right? And
Food.
together with
Food.
time, you can always also give them your attention.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Now
Very
we like it,
important.
right? When people give us attention, right? If I were to give the class looking that side all the time and speak the whole class, right? How are you going to like it? Nah, right? And if I ask you a question and you look that way and you give me the answer, I'm not going to like it. We need that eye contact, which is a soul to soul. Like they say, eyes are the windows of the soul. Through the eyes, actually, you make a connection to the soul which is inside.
Mhm.
And that is why you will see that strangers, the stranger means it's a soul in a body, right? Who's a stranger? Stranger is just a soul in a body. And those body have not acquainted, right? So whenever you look at a stranger, you will see the first thing that they do is they turn the eyes away. Why? Because the soul doesn't want to make that connection. So the word attention means to connect. Attention. So those of you are with a biological background, you will know that the muscles are there in our body, and then there are bones, right? And then there are certain objects or pieces. I'm not a biology student, that are used to connect your muscles to the bones. Otherwise, the muscles will fall down, right? So your muscles are connected to the bones by what are known as tendons. So ten actually means to connect. So attention is also means to connect. So we said that we need to pay attention. And of course, we should pay attention to everybody who's around us, attention to our parents, attention to the scriptures, attention to our seniors, like that, the boss, right? Customers. Of course, those kind of attentions are also there. But the biggest attention that we have to do is to pay attention to the Lord, pay attention to Krishna. And how do we pay attention to Krishna? How can you give your attention to Krishna? Is that whenever you're praying, you focus your attention on Him. That is one way of doing it, right? Now, Krishna, when we are paying attention, usually paying attention in a very gross sense means that I'm talking to you, you're listening to me, and that's one way of giving attention, right? So that is there always, right? But the thing is that Krishna doesn't talk to us. Right? So how can I listen to Krishna? He never dials me and calls me or WhatsApps me or texts me and say, hey, Chadda, how are you doing? Like that, right? So he doesn't talk to us, but Krishna does talk to us through different mechanisms. So Krishna talks to us through our scriptures. And one of the ways in which you can listen to Krishna is to follow the scriptures. Follow the scriptures. And the Bhagavad Gita says that anything that you do which is according to the scriptures is actually right karma, the good thing that you do when you follow the scriptures. If you do activities which do not follow the guidelines of scriptures, it's known as vikarma. It will have its consequences. So one of the ways we can give attention to Krishna is to follow the scripture. Krishna also speaks to us. Krishna also speaks to us. So scriptures are there neutral. It's there, soundless. It's there. You read it. Unless somebody recites to it, then there's sound there. Then the next level is that Krishna also whispers to you through the voice of conscience from the heart. Ever had a voice which says, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it? That's, the voice of conscience is there. He speaks to you from within the heart. And as you surrender, the more you surrender to the Lord, the louder he will speak to you in the heart. The scriptures are there, we ignore it, we don't listen to him. Then he speaks to us in the whisper. It's a whisper of love for us from our heart. We don't listen to that either, right? And then when you don't listen, now all of us, most of you are mothers or parents here in the class today, and so that if you have a small child like 5 years old, 6 years old, and you call him, his name is Arun or Arjun, right? So you say, Arjun. Arjun doesn't answer. Arjun doesn't answer. Arjun, Arjun, right? Then we start shouting, right? Same thing Krishna does. If you don't listen, then we start increasing our volume. So after speaking to you through the whisper of love, Krishna talks to you through the loudspeaker of misery. So learn to recognize that miseries is a reminder Krishna is giving us that, look here, I'm here, you need to do something. You need to sit and think, why am I miserable? Instead of blaming, why is Krishna doing this to me? I'm such a great devotee of the Lord. Why is he doing this to me? And that's why we have to.
Everybody, please mute your audio. Please.
Yeah, I did that, sorry. And so we have to understand, instead of blaming Krishna and saying, why is all this happening? And why is all my happiness being taken away? I wanted to be happy. Why is this misery come? You have to learn and try to find out what is the reason behind it and what did I do and what do I now need to do to get out of that misery. Okay. So when it comes to giving to Krishna, you can give to Krishna a lot, many things. You can give to Krishna your mind, of course, your attention, which is mine. You can give him your body and you can give him your words, right? You can give him the body. Like, I remember, Vidhu Mataji and Bali Auntie, they were there in the temple when I came there 2 years ago, about it looks like a long time ago. And they were washing and they were cleaning everything in the temple. Why were they doing that? Why do you have to go and wash and clean a temple? I mean, at your home, you get a maid servant to do that, right? So why do you do that? So people do that. They give their body as a service to Krishna because the home, that is Krishna's home, and I want to clean him, right? And we are Nishulk Dasika. We don't ask him for any money. Krishna never pays us money for that, right? If you are in a contracting job, you do one piece of job, you just write the bill, right? And raise an invoice, like, okay, so many dollars an hour, this is how much you're going to pay me. But for Krishna, it comes from love. So you can give your words, you can give your body. Word means that you saw in the beginning of this class, there were 2 Matajis singing so beautifully, right? And so what were they doing? They were giving their words to Krishna. They were using the voice to recognize, yeah? Kya Samri Surat Mere Girdhar Gopal ki, right? There you go, glorifying Krishna, using your words to glorify the Lord. You can use your body for so many things, right? And it doesn't necessarily mean that washing the temple is just the only exercise that you can do. You can also cook for Krishna. You can also distribute books for Krishna. You can have classes for Krishna. You can, so many things that you can do. They all can be connected. Somebody can sew clothes for Krishna. Somebody can make jewelries for Krishna. So there's no dearth of activities that you can do and use your body in the service of Krishna. So when we are talking about this kind of a giving, we are actually talking about that, you be a giver, not just, okay, money also you can give to Krishna. That's not a problem. But then Krishna says that, first give me your attention. Mayeva mana adhatsva, mai buddhim niveshaya, niveshasi mayeva atha urdham nashansaya. He says, please give me your attention. And I tell you, you will live in me forever. I'm telling you, do not doubt. Na sanshaya, do not doubt for that, right? But then he knows us. Then he says, Atha chittam samhadatum na saknosi mai siram. If you're not able to concentrate. Abhyasa yogena tatho mam ichhatum dhananjaya. Then practice doing devotional service to me. Get up in the morning, put the arti thal, do the arti, right? Main puja kar rahi hu was the song, right? The arti the devotee is doing to the Lord. right? To do that, right? Or practice Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. Practice, yeah. Abhyase apya saktosi, but we are so fallen, we don't even want to do that. Mat karma parmo bhava. Okay, if you can't do that, then come to the temple, clean the toilet. The temple, you'll be purified by that cleansing, because that cleanses you from inside also. Mat karma parmo bhava, madhartam api karmani, kurvam siddhim avapsasi, right? You will gain siddhi if you do that. But then we say, Are kaise? I can't go. I have this mother-in-law at my home. She doesn't allow me to go back. She wants to go to the temple. She wants me to cook at home. People will say that, I'm just joking. But these kind of situations might happen. I am a mom of small kids. I can't go, or I have work to do. So he says, okay, if you cannot even do that, then sarva karma phala tyagam tatha kuru yatataman. Give away the results of your labor. What is the biggest result of our labor? Is Lakshmi. So you take some Lakshmi and give it. And which is such a nice thing, because it then, when you give the Lakshmi to Krishna, it takes you back to the first thing that he was asking, and that is, put your mind on me. So why does giving Lakshmi to Krishna connect you to Krishna? And that is because when you go to the temple hundi and you put your $100 inside the hundi, all the way back home, you're thinking about the hundi. Did I give too much? Was 100 too much? 50 would have been okay. Like that. Krishna, why did you do this? At least you're thinking about Krishna that way, right? So Krishna is very naughty. He will make you he made life easy for you, and made you come some Lakshmi, but then in the end, your mind has again gone back. So be a giver. This is what you can really, really give to Krishna, right? So I'm just looking at the time over here. It's 7:48, and I think I should stop now. I don't know where the time went, but with one mantra. But I'd like to open up now and ask any questions that you have on, how you can, give your mind, and or on any of the other mantras that we have there. So you can unmute yourself, ask your question or share your reflection, and then you can also raise your hand if this system allows you. You can raise your hand, that way I can see you very nicely. And I see Varsha Malik Mataji is raising. Are you raising your hand, Varsha?
Yes, Mother.
Okay.
Yes, Mother, trying to. Yes, Mataji. When you said that we should pay attention, one thing in my life I have realized that when somebody criticizes, you must pay attention to it, because that criticism may teach you something, and find something in your own self that you are wrong, not the other person, and you can change yourself. That thing has really brought a lot of mm, satisfaction and happiness to me.
Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Learning how to tolerate criticism is a virtue. Is a virtue. And actually, we take criticism as an insult, right? There are a couple of things we take as an insult. Somebody criticizes us, we take it as an insult. Somebody ignores us, we take that as an insult, right? Or somebody misunderstands us, and then we also like, what's wrong with my spouse? Why does he not understand? I need this, like that. So, so when these kind of things happen to us, right? There's something. So we have got a material body, right? So you got a material body, and the soul is inside the material body. Now, when we go back to Godhead, right? When we go back to kingdom of Krishna, we're going to have another body. Because how big is the soul? The soul is very tiny. The soul is only 1/10,000th part of the tip of the hair, right? You take a hair, you divide the tip of the hair to 10,000 pieces. That is the size of the soul, as described in the scriptures, right? So that's the size that I have. It's not going to be much fun there in the kingdom of God with Krishna. So we're going to get a spiritual body. And spiritual body will look like this only, right? It could look like this body only in the sense that you'll have a nose and ear, or you could be anything. You could be a tree also. It doesn't matter in the kingdom of God. Both are same. But it'll look like that, and it'll have a skin on top of it. It'll look like, there's flesh and things like that. But the material that is used to create that body is different. For example, if you go to the wax museum in San Francisco, right? So you see people there standing, but they are made of wax. They're not real, in the sense that we are real. They're not made of flesh and blood. They're made of wax, but they look like us. So similarly, the spiritual body will also look like this, but it's made up of spiritual content. So there'll be blood in that body also, but that blood is spiritual blood. And just as here, blood is very, very important to nourish you, right? Blood is the important constituent of our body. Similarly, the spiritual body also requires spiritual blood. Now here, if the blood is less, they have to give you perfusion, right? Blood perfusion, or hemoglobin is low, they'll ask you to take iron tablets. Similarly, in your spiritual body also, you need to have spiritual blood that grows. And as you pursue your devotional service, right? As you pursue devotional service, your spiritual body begins to be formed, right? Slowly, it can take millions of births for it to finally manifest itself fully, right? For some, it can be very short. For some, it can take a long time. It depends on the soul. The soul has the power and the decision power to do that. So it can happen to us like that. And so as we pursue devotional service, this body itself also becomes transcendental. Our senses become transcendental, and a person at a higher level is able to see more with the eyes than we can see, like Vyasdev. Like, I'm here, I'm sitting this, I'm able to see you here. I'm not able to see what is going to happen at 9 o'clock in the night. I cannot see that, right? But Vyasdev was sitting and he was writing Mahabharata when it had not even happened, because he can see into the future. I can't even see into the past. I don't even remember what I had for dinner, last night. I can't even go much into the past. Forget about my previous births and previous lives. I can't even do that because I'm not evolved. But as you evolve spiritually, then you get all these, extra facilities and extra powers to be able to do that, like that. So learning how to tolerate, which was one of the mantras for happiness, right? Learning how to tolerate, learning to accept insults, and to take criticism squarely, as Varsha Mataji mentioned. Learning these things actually acts as the spinach or the iron for your spiritual blood. Your spiritual blood, or Chid Rakta as it is called in the Shastras, that grows. That grows. So it's very, very important for us. Like, we get so much agitated when somebody criticizes us. Instead, take a deep breath, sit down and listen. It's very, very important to listen. Because the moment somebody starts criticizing us, what do? We immediately start retaliating. We immediately start coming up with excuses and justifications and reasons as to why I am what I am. And why are you telling me there's anything wrong with me? I'm perfect. Like that. So we come up with so many excuses, but instead of that, if we just listen, hear them out, right? And then analyze the feedback. And as Vashana Mataji said, you will get peace. And then you'll be very happy for that person for criticizing you, because they pointed out something wrong in us, and now we can work on it and improve it. If nobody had told us, we would have lived with that fault forever. Yeah. So thank you for bringing that up.
और श्रद्धा के बारे में बताइए.
Shraddha के बारे में बताएं. Shraddha is actually important in devotional service. Faith, right? Faith is it's actually the first stage in devotional service. Adav Shraddha tatha sadhu sangha. Now, the thing with Shraddha is that it grows. It's like a creeper, and you have to water that creeper, right? पेड़ को पानी नहीं डालेंगे तो पेड़ मर जाएगा, right? So similarly, we have to, when somebody has planted that seed, now that seed can get planted in you in many ways, right? One is sometimes the gurus will be able to, touch you and do something to you, and then, awaken your things, your Shraddha. It could be Krishna's causeless mercy. Mercy actually means causeless. Kripa is causeless. You don't do anything, but still he does it for you. So it could be that, right? Shraddha can also, now those are extremes, trying to find a mystical guru who can do that, or, Krishna does it for you. It's a difficult thing, right? So the easiest thing by which you can get some faith, right? You can get fame and begin to have faith is to associate with people who have faith. If you go and spend every evening in the bar with people who are atheists, who do not believe in Krishna, What's going to happen after a month? You're going to start believing that there's no God, because association has got a strong effect on what we do. So that is why we always pray. And actually, Parikshit Maharaj, who had 7 days to live and who heard the entire Srimad Bhagavatam, so after hearing such a powerful scripture, at the end of the scripture and towards the 12th canto of Bhagavatam, when they talk about his leaving his body, his prayer, it's amazing the prayer that he prays. He says that if I am to take a birth again, then please give me the association of devotees. And please let me be friendly with them, because you can get association of devotees and you can be unfriendly with them. Classic example, Prahlad Maharaj, born in the family of Hiranyakashipu, and his father was antagonist. His father was his biggest enemy. So he got association of devotee, but did not utilize it. So once you get the association of devotees, I also want friendly relationships with them, because he understood after the entire Srimad Bhagavatam that without the association of devotees, nothing is possible. Mahat, dwaram, sevam. So when you have to go to higher planets or go to the highest planet, you cannot do that without serving the Mahat. Mahat is the Mahatmas. So you also will, serve them. And when you serve these people, when you serve these great personalities, then they will be happy with you and they will give you the right knowledge. Jnanina tattvadarshinaha. They have seen the truth and they will give it to you. But we have to first serve them. Syan Mehat Sevaya Vipra, Punya Tirtha Nishevana. So when you serve the devotees, here's the magical formula that is not taught in any of the universities, Stanford or Yale or whatever great universities we have in this world. None of the universities are actually going to tell you that which is completely unimaginable thing, and that is that by serving these Mahatmas, you develop a desire to hear Krishna Katha. Totally unrelated thing. What does washing somebody's food or cooking some food for somebody or cleaning somebody's hut will produce a desire in me to hear Krishna Katha? But that is how it is. That is how the Shastras tell us this is how it happens. Try it. It'll happen. It will happen to you. So Shraddha in the beginning is, like I told many months ago, is like a banana tree. It can be swayed from one direction to another direction, right? Like that. But as you continue to associate with devotees, this banana tree will get transformed and become which tree? Anybody remember?
Banyan tree.
Banyan tree, exactly. So now nobody can shift a banyan tree. Even that elephant we saw in that story will have a tough time trying to uproot a banyan tree. It's very, very strongly rooted. So it's a cyclical thing. You have a little bit of Shraddha, you go and associate with devotees, then your Shraddha becomes stronger. You want to now associate with more devotees and then stronger, like that, and Krishna will arrange stronger and stronger personalities to come into your life and influence you in a very strong way, like that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for the wonderful question. And Viduji, we are on the top of the hour here, 8 o'clock. So
Wow.
Thank you so much, Shraddha ji. But really liked it, the way you described the way of happiness and how can we be happy, those 3-4 things, the very
All
important.
these mantras.
And also the higher consciousness to solve problems. I never thought that is very important to develop that. So it was so wonderful. Thank you for your talk.
thank you. Thank you so much for having me over here.
Thank you.
Looking forward.
Thank you.
Thank you,
so much.
Shraddha Mataji. Thank you.
Pancha kalpatarubhya
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Kripa sindhave
patitanam
patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Premanande.
Hari Bol, Hari Krishna.
So I'm going to do the
Hare Krishna.
Jai Ho Ji. Jai Ho.
Hare Krishna.